Music.
Oh, shoot.
There we go.
I muted myself so I can eat a few more chips.
You're good, dude. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Comics a la Mode, the podcast where we talk about everything geek and nerd culture. And as you can see, Landon is finishing up some food, and we are back. We've been gone for the last 2 weeks. Last week, I was in Minnesota for my best friend's wedding, and so
weddings are fun.
So I got back at 3 a.m. in the morning. And was exhausted, and I texted Landon. I'm like, brother, there's no shot I'm going to be able to be anywhere coherent at all for this episode. And literally,
here we are.
Made it. So we're back. We got so much to cover. There's so much going on, news-wise and everything. But Landon, how you been?
I'm good.
Played, watched, read anything interesting?
Well, first off,
this is the weekend of Halloween.
It is the weekend of Halloween. I'm not doing anything. I don't have any Halloween plans this year. For whatever reason, it just kind of slid under the radar. I don't even have a costume. I didn't go to a haunted house. The only thing I've done for the season is I've carved like 3 pumpkins.
Okay.
One I was with somebody I'm seeing. We did a pumpkin carving thing, and then the porch like last week. We the young adult group we carved a bunch of pumpkins, and that was fun. And being from the Midwest, that was a thing that I did growing up a lot, and we got pretty good at it, and it was tradition. I find that a lot of people in Arizona don't really do that, or they're not very good at it, or maybe it's just the group that I was hanging out with. But it's fun. That's one of my favorite things.
It's more we're just not very
that didn't answer your question.
That's hilarious enough, though. I was it Saturday? Saturday, I decided that as my my Halloween plans go, what I did was I had a couple beers and I watched all 3 Halloween films of the new trilogy.
Yeah, there you go.
Saturday
that's
night.
Way more Halloween than anything I've done. I mean, pumpkin carving, but like that's a legit Halloween.
What I will say about that trilogy is like the Halloween reboot. I'm trying to frame myself better. Jeez. The Halloween reboot is amazing. I love that film. It's a great film. Halloween Kills is the second film, and it's very different from the first, but it does a lot of things interestingly. It has a whole subplot where the town is essentially becoming this mob, forming this mob mentality. And it's this idea that like Michael Myers is turning the town into monsters. Like he is like, we are the monsters we create. And I think that was really interesting and really well done.
And like they're just fed up with him at this point because he's been murdering everybody, and don't they like band together? And
they just all
accidentally kill somebody. They kill somebody dressed as Michael Myers or something. It's like just
they actually kill they kill one of the other insane asylum patients that have escaped.
Okay. See, I've never seen those movies.
It's very weird.
And I recently go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're good. To like finish it out, like Halloween Ends is just a strange movie. It ends the story pretty well, but it does it in such a weird way that I don't know if I was fully satisfied with it.
Okay.
And so, but
one of those movies.
Good trilogy. You definitely should go and check it out for sure.
I recently I realized I didn't answer your question earlier about what I've been watching, reading, playing, all that stuff. I was watching some YouTube over the weekend, and there's a YouTube channel that I really love. They're called Pretty Much It. And it's one of those YouTube channels where they watch a movie and then they film themselves. It's like a commentary track. And you can buy the commentary track on their website, and that's how they like make most of their money. But their YouTube channel is also successful, and they put clips from the commentary track on their YouTube channel. And it's like a 10-minute video, just the highlights of the track that they recorded. Funny guys. They're like all comedians, and he has his buddies on, and I can't remember the guys' names, but it's a great channel. Pretty Much It. And I watched one of their movies or one of their commentary tracks, and it was all about the Scream franchise, another like slasher flicks. You got like Halloween, you got Scream, and those look really fun. They look funny, and that might just be because I was watching a bunch of dudes hang out and like, you know, chill and make funny jokes about what's happening in the movie. But that is definitely a series that I might check out, because I've not seen any of the Screams. I've not seen any of the Halloween franchise. I mostly stay away from horror, but I think I'm getting to the point where I might check out like the slasher flicks.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, slashers to me, like, as someone who is a giant scaredy cat when it comes to horror, the slasher genre is very different to me. I
think so too.
I love the Halloween movies. The original Halloween movie is a masterpiece.
Oh yeah. And they've definitely earned their laurels.
If you're gonna go and check the series out, you definitely have to watch the original Halloween, because the new trilogy that is now gets rid of all of the weird sequels that came after Halloween. And so it's just, if you start like with Halloween, if you start with Halloween 1, then you go into the Halloween, the 2018 film, and then on, then you get the whole, like the full story. It's really good. I don't know why my allergies are kicking up, everybody, but whatever.
No worries.
We've got some news. One of the biggest, I don't know if you've been watching the news, nerd culture wise lately, but acting strike is coming to an end, so we've got movies shifting and everything. I don't know if we talked about this. Brave New World, which is Captain America 4, it has now switched, and it has been moved back to the release date of Deadpool 3, and Deadpool 3 has gotten pushed back again. I figured this was coming because we had so many stories about how Ryan Reynolds wasn't being allowed to ad-lib or anything because of the writer's strike and everything. So it made sense that they were going to be putting this on hold. Very, you know, I want that film to be amazing, and so I will.
Same here.
I want that film to get pushed back as much as possible, as much as they need to give us the film that they want to do.
Yeah.
It's a huge bummer, though. Yeah, it is a huge bummer because we all excited about that one. We all want that film.
Give me that Wolverine in that costume, man. Come on, man.
Oh, exactly.
Oh my gosh. But you know, we need Ryan Reynolds to do his thing because he's so good as that character, and a lot of improv goes into that. So, you know, if a extended release date, you know, in the far future, is what it is. But to get a good finished product, like, you're not going to sacrifice the writing and the actors. You need all that.
So. Exactly. Today I did see that early reviews have dropped for Invincible season 2, and
that comes out pretty soon.
It comes out the end of November, November 24th.
Time is flying, dude.
I know. The fact that we are already in November of this year is crazy to me.
But I'm super excited for season 2.
It has 100% review on Rotten Tomatoes, which honestly, I figured,
not surprised,
because this series is fantastic. But I'm very excited. Very excited for season 2 as a huge comic book Invincible fan. I'm excited to see all of it put onto the screen.
And you know what? They will probably. I mean, it sounds like the series is going to be very successful. I don't know what the previous season currently stands at on Rotten Tomatoes. I might look that up later, but I know the way that percentage works, it's based on the number of people that have reviewed the film or the television series or whatever. At this point, probably only a few people have even seen it, but like 100%, that means that person thought it was good, positive, fresh, what have you. And like they do the ratings like weird. I don't really read into too much on the Rotten Tomatoes side of things, but
yeah, honestly,
100%, it speaks for
I
itself.
wish the Rotten Tomatoes thing would go to bed. Like it at this point, I think it does more harm than it does good in the movie
Yeah, I mean,
industry.
look at the Five Nights at Freddy's movie that just came out, which I didn't see, but I would kind of like to.
I've
I've heard
heard
some buzz
great
about it.
things. I've heard great things about
Yeah,
that movie.
and that's one of those examples of the fans really loving something, and then the critics really kind of panning it, because that score is all over the place. So you get stuff like that, and it's like, what is
True.
really the purpose of this then? If this disparity between the people and the critics is so large, it's like, why even bother with it? But
Yeah.
I'm kind of in the same boat as you. The Rotten Tomatoes thing, I could take it or leave it. But I go to YouTube. I have a couple film critics, reviewers, whatever, that I trust, and if they're into it, then I feel like I'll be into it.
True.
That's
I
just
do
how
the
I
same
measure
thing.
this stuff. But yeah,
I do the same thing. And then so on the comic side of news, this is actually kind of fascinating. So back in early 2000s, Marvel started the Ultimate Universe. Essentially, what it was is they were like, hey, all of our legacy characters have so much history and so much backstory that a lot of new fans cannot really get into it. They struggle understanding where to jump in. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to create a whole new universe, and we're going to give fans essentially updated origins on all their favorite characters, and essentially tell this story forward. You know, it came out to some pretty like iffy like reactions. You had some very strange reworks of characters' origins. Like Thor is like a
strange,
hippie. Like
putting it
Thor is
lightly.
Thor is like a hippie who like figures out that like if he hallucinates hard enough, sometimes he can have Thor powers. It's very strange, but the crown jewel, as it was, of the Ultimate Universe was the Ultimate Spider-Man. Essentially, what you got was a retelling of the Spider-Man mythos, Spider-Man origin.
That was the standout.
Which was amazing. They kept a lot of the stuff very, very similar to your 616 Spider-Man, but what they did was they updated and changed it a little bit. So, like, perfect example is like Green Goblin looked a little different. He was more of a hulking figure. And it culminated.
I don't like that.
I don't like it because I like the 616 version of Goblin, but for the story, it works better. And so especially when it culminates with Parker's death, like the way Parker dies
was a big story.
At the end of that series, it worked, and I loved it. I loved it for it. So,
and then it made room for Miles, right? Miles Morales came from the Ultimate Universe.
And Miles did a good job. Like they did a good job of introducing Miles because it made sense why he was there. Like you got your story with Peter. Peter's story came to a great conclusion, and then you had this introduction of this character that was like, hey, it's like passing the torch without passing the torch, essentially.
Right.
Then they're like, hey, like this series or this universe has kind of fallen apart. Miles is really the only thing left salvageable, except for the Maker. The Maker showed up now.
The Maker and Miles Morales, the best things to come from the Ultimate Universe. You remember how they folded all that over and ended everything? You remember what event it was?
Yeah, it was Cataclysm, wasn't it? It was like the start of Hickman's not Battle World, but it was
it was Battle World.
Like,
it was
Secret
Wars,
right? Yeah.
Or Secret Wars 2 or Secret War.
So they got rid of the universe.
Those, yeah.
Miles has been dealing with like flashbacks where he's starting to remember pieces of the Ultimate Universe, whatever. So fast forward to now. Marvel is recreating the Ultimate Universe. Now, why I'm saying this is interesting and newsworthy. Ryan Stegman if you've listened to this podcast at all ever, you know that Ryan Stegman is one of, if not my favorite comic book artist. If he's not my favorite, it's Mark Bagley who's my favorite. But Ryan Stegman is one of my top 2 favorite artists in comic books. He dropped on Twitter a cover that said, "Meet the Parkers."
Yeah.
And
so good.
It is a family portrait of Mary Jane Watson, Peter Parker with a beard, might I add,
Goes hard.
in the Spider-Man costume, with who I can assume is Mayday Parker, which is the daughter who's always been which has always been kind of pops up here and there in different iterations. He always has a kid, and it's always it's always a girl, but also a son who looks to
2
be
kids.
in his like 12 to 14 range. And from what
I love that.
What I've been hearing is that this is going to take place as essentially going to rewrite Spider-Man's origins, so he doesn't get spider powers when he's a kid. He gets spider powers as an adult. So he's already going to have a family, which I don't like.
Is that confirmed? Or is that just like speculation?
I don't entirely know, because I saw it on someone reporting it, but then I never looked to find like the source.
Okay.
But it looked like they were reporting it based off of what Marvel had said.
I only asked because looking at the cover, I was like, oh, this is like a universe where Mephisto never took away MJ and Parker's marriage, and they actually had their kids and their family. It looks kind of like it's just a continuation of that kind of storyline. But the only problem with that, getting powers as an adult, is actually kind of interesting.
The only reason I say I don't think that's the case is that they already did that with Battleworld and Renew Your Vows, which was a storyline, where they ended up getting married. Mayday was the kid, and then they rolled it out as another series too. So that's why I'm going to say that I think this is right, where they're going to show him getting
He's
powers
doing something different. I got you.
Yeah. I am going to definitely read this, because at the end of the day, I've always wanted one thing. I've always wanted Mary Jane Watson and Peter Parker together, which they've completely kiboshed in the comics now. Like, it literally made them enemies in the last storyline. Yeah, it sucks. And then 2, I like, and I've said this on the podcast before, I like when characters have kids. I like seeing my characters grow up and have to deal with the responsibilities of being dads. I.e., Peter J. Tomasi's Superman, where they have Superboy, and he has to kind of figure out how to protect Superboy, and also learn that Superboy has powers, so has to try to like help him through that. And then
another one is your boy Donny Cates and his Venom. He's also got a kid. Brock's got a kid.
Donny Cates did the same thing with Venom. Right now,
it adds a different layer to the characters. Yeah,
exactly. Right now, they're doing something similar right now with Batman, with Brave and the Bold, where he and Damian are having to living in the brownstone, and it's very like Batman's having to be a dad, because usually whenever they write those characters, like whenever they write Batman, they don't write him as like being a dad. Like, they kind of write him as an absentee father. And like, it works for Nightwing, because Nightwing already has a lot of trauma with being Robin and growing up in that relationship. But like, now it's like, dude, you've had 4 Robins. How are you still so terrible at this? Right? Like, what?
Make Batman a dad again.
So I love when characters have to grow up. Very cool. And I think
just like when characters are pushed and challenged, and what's more trying than having children. So exactly. And it evolves the story too. You know, they always make Peter Parker go back to his roots in high school and a loner kid and like money problems. They always bring him back to that status quo, and it's like something different is a breath of fresh air, I think. So and all the covers that they released for Hickman's Ultimate Universe revival, Did you see all those
Yeah.
like weren't holographic, but all the different
Oh
comic
no, I
covers and
didn't.
Spider-Man, his shifted between different costumes was pretty sick.
That's cool. I'll have to check that out after.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me. So then the other stuff. Last time we were on, I was talking about how I just started Assassin's Creed. I finished Assassin's
Yeah.
Creed Mirage. Very good. If you are a fan of the old franchise, you will love this game. You will enjoy this game. If you're a fan of the newer RPG, I still think you'll enjoy this game because it has a lot of those aspects. It's a very familiar game if you're playing it. I loved it. I think it was fun. It was interesting because I didn't like it for like probably the first quarter. And then I don't know what happened, but there was a turning point where I was like, "Oh, I am so in." Like it took me it was taking me to force myself to play it in the beginning.
Mm.
And then once I got into the game and started getting it, like I was like, "Yep, I'm in." Very
What was
cool.
the I'm curious about the the Assassin's Creed games always have like a modern day storyline
There was
protagonist that
none.
you follow. There was none. Oh, cool.
There
I
was
actually
none.
dig that because
I
you're in the
don't like that. I think
really.
that's
I
dumb.
was gonna say
Yes.
you're in like the Renaissance era and you're jumping off buildings and everything, and then it's like, oh, let's take a sidestep and do like a stealth mission or whatever in this office space headquarters or whatever. And I never
There
really cared
was
for that.
there's a twist at the end that connects to the modern day storyline,
Mm,
but it does it in a way that like it never like fully goes full modern day. Um
okay,
so
cool.
like it is what it is. I miss the modern day storyline. Um
It's like after
I think
Desmond Miles
well
and
well to
like
your
all that
point
stuff.
there, is like the problem with the modern day storyline is that they've really struggled with Desmond. Like ever since Desmond, they've really struggled to like find some footing. And I think Assassin's Creed Valhalla did a better job at it, but like Mirage never really pushed the modern day storyline that they've been doing in Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla. Never didn't even push that forward really. So I'm like, why did we make this game again?
Mm,
Because it like this game was supposed to be DLC for Valhalla. And then they were like, "Hey, wait, actually, you know what? Let's make this." So it like the problem is it feels like a little bit bigger than a DLC but not a full game.
mhm.
So I'm kind of surprised that they still and like that's why the price point was only like $30.
Oh, I
So
see.
it's not bad, but like
How
still it
long
was
did
really high.
how long did playthrough take you? Like, what do you think? How long did it take you to finish the game?
I think it took me 5 days, 5 6 days, like a week, maybe a week.
Yeah,
And like that's playing like 4 or 5 hours each playthrough. And then sometimes like if it was a
yeah,
Saturday, I
like a
played a little.
solid week with the game. It's not
Yeah,
bad,
yeah, it wasn't bad.
and it
I
looks
wasn't
great.
expect
I mean,
I
honestly, I
wasn't
think it looks
yeah, I
stellar.
wasn't expecting it to be like a ton. And yes, it's a very pretty game. It's a lot of fun.
Mhm.
I like Basim as a character. I think what they did with a lot of the suits is really cool because like as you like level up and you level up through the story, and as you get to certain levels, you become a different rank as an assassin. So this is the
Mm,
first Assassin's Creed game where you start out as a complete I'm just joining the order kind of a thing, which I think is really cool how they like progress that throughout the story. And I really like that. That's
mhm.
probably the coolest thing about this game to me
I
is that
think
portion.
in my
So
limited knowledge of Assassin's Creed, Russ, I'm sorry, but I gotta correct you because Assassin's Creed Black Flag, baby, you got he started from scratch. He didn't. What was that? The pirate? Oh
yes,
shoot,
no, okay, so you're right.
Hatham Kenway
Kenway,
or
no,
Edward Kenway.
Hatham, yeah, Edward is the
That's his
one.
father. Yeah,
You're right.
he like
So
washed up
yes,
on a beach. So that's the only
yes,
one I've played. So I gotta
I
say,
will I will agree with you on that.
we're not the only one I've played.
I'll make the correction then. This is the first one where you play as an assassin who hasn't had previous combat experience. Like
Okay, yeah,
you
because he's like
start
a
out
roguish type. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
because
Gotcha.
Basim is a street thief. Like he's a street thief. So he's never killed anybody, and
He
you
wants to
actually
avoid combat.
yeah, you actually deal with that. So like that's really the interesting part is like this is a Bassam that is you're essentially growing with this character as you're playing, which is really cool.
So does that mean he's more stealth based or
so the so it is a more stealth based game, but the cool thing about the mechanics is that as you rank up, your character becomes faster when he's parkouring. So in the beginning, he's kind of clunky when he's parkouring because he's learning how to parkour. But as you become as you get closer to that master assassin, you get faster. And it's really cool. The parkour part of this game, the parkour part of this game is probably the most fun part of this game. And it's been missing for a while. So it was fun.
Love that.
I am going to be playing the early access for the Call of Duty campaign comes out this weekend, so I'm going to be playing that. So I should have an update for you guys on that when we come back for next week. But then other than that, yeah, I've just been kind of like the biggest thing, guys, and I know the same thing for Landon is Loki and Gen V.
Loki and Gen V.
Which do you want to start with first?
Let's talk about Loki. It's wild. It's bonkers. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on.
Loki is insane right now.
And I've remembered enough about it now that I can.
I don't know what happened. I don't understand this last episode. So there's a lot that happened, guys. Like, it's very crazy. They went back in time. They went back in time. Found Mr. Timely, who is the Kang variant. They brought him to the.
So we're going to talk about the previous 2 episodes, right? Because we missed last week.
Well, I think
because that was the one with the time jump, this TVA, and
I think we focus on.
They went back in time to see Victor Timely.
Yeah, I think we focus on the current episode, but also we can talk about different aspects from the episodes.
I mean, a lot of that previous episode bleeds into the most recent episode as well.
Exactly,
like there is a direct continuation. So
exactly.
What are we thinking about Victor Timely right now?
I mean. So
how are we feeling about the Kang stuff right now? I mean, because that all kind of is the same.
I gotta ask. I do need to ask you a question. Did you see the trailer that Disney dropped for the last 2 episodes?
No, I avoid it.
Don't watch it. No, don't watch it. Don't watch it.
I'm not watching that. Heck no.
Don't watch it.
2 more episodes left. What are we doing? Putting a trailer out.
And here's the problem. I didn't even watch the stupid trailer either.
For the series.
The freaking first frame or the screen or like the cover of the trailer is a spoiler instantly.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why would you do that? So
bro, I was just thinking the other day, I didn't like go through and rewatch the series trailer, but I was just thinking all the episodes we've had up until now, we're at the point where there's like maybe 1 or 2 frames of that trailer that haven't been seen yet. It's like a shot of Loki and he's in his prison like jumpsuit with the shot collar and everything. And then there's maybe something else, but we are almost entering uncharted territory right now. So I was like, why did they put out a trailer? And you know how you hover over videos on YouTube, it'll kind of run through the first couple seconds. It started showing and I was like, and it was a smaller icon. So I really couldn't see what was going on, but I was like, nope, don't want to see any of that. Because it's like, oh, this is the last two episodes, and here's what you're gonna see, and here's what has been going on, and I don't know why they did that. I hear that viewership is pretty low on the series, so maybe they did that as an extra sort of marketing push. Like, here's the big stuff. Maybe. If you're not watching, you should start now. I love Victor Timely.
I think Kang stuff is great in this show.
He's doing so much with just that little character, and it's way different than He Who Remains, who I really liked as well. And it's just it brings back that point. Like, it sucks that Jonathan Majors is in such hot water right now because I'm back on board with Kang. And I know Russ left, but the thing about Victor Timely and Jonathan Majors' performance there is he's got these little ticks and he's got these little phrases and he's got this little it's a tick, but it's almost like a stutter. He gave this character a little stutter, and it just does enough to differentiate between all the different Kangs. And so if he's gonna do this, give them each like their own little thing. You have the He Who Remains, which was very bombastic and almost theatrical with his presence. Maybe because he was a little bit insane, but this Victor Timely guy, he's not shy because he put on a huge show, but he's got like this little tick. He's super intelligent. I just love the way that Jonathan Majors has made him different than anything we've seen up until now, and that's going to keep it fresh. That's what's invigorating new life into this broader story that they're trying to tell. And I like how he was just into it. Like, he's just thrust into the deep end with all the stuff happening with Loki and all the plot that just gets thrown at him. He's in the Ferris wheel a little bit. And he's just frightened, but he's also very, very intrigued by the TVA and Mobius and Loki. And then when he's actually at the TVA and he has to figure out the problem with the temporal loom, and he meets Ouroboros. I just think everything that they've done with him so far has been so exciting and fresh, and he's just a presence. He's just very exciting and fun to watch, and that's been great the past couple episodes.
It's funny because you sent me a text when the first episode with Victor Timely came out, where you said you were like, "This actually gets me interested in the Kang stuff again."
I'm back,
and
with
like
the Kang stuff, the multiverse stuff,
it's weird because like I'm kind of there too. And like, here's what I'm thinking is that at the end of this show, they're gonna explain. I don't know. I've got allergies. Everybody, sorry.
No, you're good.
They're gonna explain that the Kang that we saw at the end of Ant-Man is a variant and is not the Kang that we see who is the one who remains. But it's funny because
I never thought that, by the way. I never thought like that would be the case, but
it's funny though too, because like supposedly, Victor Timely's dead.
Yeah,
especially at the end,
like, he got his skin ripped off, like Mobius was afraid of, and he turned to spaghetti. Like,
it's crazy because like that happens, but then also in the same episode, we get a sequence where Loki is the one who prunes himself, and then looks at Sylvie and says, "You'll understand this later." And I'm over here looking at the TV after watching, because I watched this episode twice, because I was like, "What in the heck did I just watch?" I was trying to figure out what was going on. I'm still confused, and I'm going like, it better make sense because I don't know what's happening right now.
I think it was just the thing about Loki pruning himself. I feel like it's just something that the writers maybe early on drafted some scripts that's like, let's maybe try to answer this at the end. And it kind of just feels like they couldn't answer it, and they just had an opportunity to like close the loop, as it were. So they're just like, oh, let's have just Loki prune himself. And it happened in episode 4. And at the beginning of the series, it's like, oh, what's this big answer going to be? He's at the end and he sees Sylvie. It's like this very climactic moment. I actually was kind of fine with it, because now that that's out of the way, like, how did Loki get pruned? That question's answered.
No, it's not answered. What are you talking about? It's not answered.
It's just the loop is closed. Now we can focus on other stuff.
It's not closed, because why did
he pruned himself and then he goes and it's a loop.
Why did he prune
himself?
Because
he pruned himself because when he was trying to fix his time shifting, they had to go in the loom. That's why Mobius went in the loom the first time, because Loki was bouncing around all over time. Right. And at the same exact moment that Mobius did his thing in the loom with that giant tube, Loki had to prune himself. Because remember what happens when you prune yourself? You get taken to the Abeloth.
But there's a difference there.
Sorry.
But there's a difference there, because Loki in that moment in season 1, he actively pruned himself. Right?
Yeah, at the timekeepers.
At the end of this, another Loki prunes Loki. It wasn't him. It wasn't. He didn't like prune himself by sticking the stick. Someone else hit him with the stick. That's why when he hit it and he pruned
That was the Loki that we. That was the Loki that we'd seen in the episode.
Right, okay.
Because when they.
No,
you're confusing me now.
No,
you're thinking about it too hard, man.
No,
you're thinking about it too hard.
I'm not confused. I am completely straight here.
Sylvie and Loki try to get in that elevator, right?
Yep.
This wasn't. Oh God, I'm getting all these 2 episodes mixed up. But at one point, they're in that elevator, right? And then the elevator breaks down because the TVA is in ruins.
Yeah,
and then Loki leaves the elevator. Yeah, I can't remember
Loki
what they're doing.
Loki never gets in the elevator.
Or like Sylvie gets in the elevator, but the Loki we see running around
trapped
in that
outside.
Episode, that's the Loki that prunes his earlier self.
Okay, but at the okay, yes,
it's a lot of Loki and a lot of.
No, but at the beginning of the first episode, right? He's running around. He's shifting everywhere, and then they're like
shifting through time, right? Yep, they're trying to fix that.
We have a plan, and so then he runs and grabs the stick. He turns that stick on himself and prunes himself, right?
No, he doesn't. That's the problem. He's got that ticking clock, and he can't find a pruning stick. He's trying to figure out a way to prune himself. And then he sees Loki, and then not Loki. He sees Sylvie in the elevator. Remember, he hears that phone. This is the way you differentiate between the Lokis, because the Loki from episode 1 of season 2, he's still in his attire from the end of season 1. He's in his tie. He's got his little, his vest, the sword holster thing, and he's all torn up because that's a continuation from the He Who Remains stuff, and that's Loki from season 1, right? So you've got that version of Loki with the tie, and that's why he's jumping all around. He's trying to figure out how to prune himself so that he can fix his temporal shifting. Right.
Okay.
In that episode of season 2, the first episode of season 2, when he's trying to figure all that out, he hears a phone, right? And he starts approaching the phone. He's got that ticking clock, and Mobius, he's in the temporal loom. He's about to get his skin ripped off, right? There's a whole clock aspect to this, and he hears the phone. He approaches the phone. It's by the elevator. And then Sylvie opens the elevator and she's like, "Oh, there you are." Boom. Loki with the tie gets pruned. But we don't see in episode 1 of season 2 how Loki gets pruned. He's just pruned, right? Jump to episode 4 of season 2. You got Loki and Sylvie and Mobius and Victor Timely. They're all jumping around the TVA trying to offline Miss Minutes and trying to fix the loom. Sylvie gets in the elevator. I can't remember exactly how this goes down, but Sylvie and Loki split up. Sylvie goes in the elevator, and Loki goes around on his own. And he's got his prune stick with him. This is Loki in the brown trench coat. He's got his prune stick. He hears, and the TVA is falling apart all around him, right? So Loki in the brown trench coat and the prune stick, he's running around trying to figure out how to get to Sylvie. And then he stops because he hears the phone. That's when the reveal happens that, he is watching his previous self, the Loki in the tie, walking up to that phone and seeing Sylvie, his Sylvie that's in the elevator. And Loki with the trench coat has the prune stick. It's clicking. I am the one who pruned myself to send me back and fix my temporal shifting. Because Loki in the trench coat with his prune stick prunes his former version of himself in the tie. Does that make sense? Are you tracking?
Yeah, I straight up just I'm pulling it up. I'm looking right. I'm pulling it up I pulled it up on my phone.
Closing the loop. Watch it. Because I watched that and I was like, "Oh, awesome! Now we don't have that mystery, right?" Because it was like, who pruned Loki? Yep. It was himself. Right, now we can move past that and focus on other things.
Yeah, you're right. I'm insane.
No, you're good.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, there's a lot. It's a lot of timey-wimey gobbledygook, folks.
That's the thing about the TVA, though, man. It's just interesting, and there's a lot of weird stuff going on, but that's kind of where the charm is at.
Yeah, it's gonna be very interesting to see what happens in the last 2 episodes. It's very dude, like we're like Gen V is on the same track right now. Like they're literally next week. Next week is the last episode of Gen V,
Finale.
and I'm also just like, wait. I thought this last week's episode was the finale.
Is it
I was
how many
I was very
episodes of Gen V
surprised.
have we gotten?
We
Was that
got
episode
7.
6?
That was 7.
Okay,
That
so
was
they
episode
also they
7.
have 8
So we
episodes.
have
Loki
yeah,
has 6
they had
episodes.
8. Yeah.
Okay.
So yes,
Any other
I'm very interested on Loki. It again,
yeah, any other
we've talked about this.
thoughts?
It has completely shifted my thoughts on the Loki franchise, the series, the character, this version of the character. I'm
Love
a
that.
huge
Hey,
fan.
it's awesome.
I'm very excited. Very like it's good. It's fun TV.
Oof. I got to talk about something real quick before we move
right.
away from Loki.
Drop it.
This most recent episode is my favorite episode of the show, like in its entirety, except for maybe that episode where they're in the void at the end of time, right? And you get the multiverse versions of Loki. You got old Loki and kid Loki and alligator Loki. That was a great episode because you just get all the Lokis, right? The Lokis go off. That was a great episode. This episode here, though, the most recent one, might be my favorite episode of just MCU television in general, because the stakes never been higher. You got great performances. You got Victor Timely, who's just a joy. You have your villains like Ravonna and Miss Minutes and Hunter X5. You got your villains over here. You got your heroes over here. They're all trying to do their own thing. They're all still in the TVA, which I love the setting of the TVA. Very, weird looking and almost boring looking, but it's interesting because of that. And then you have these little conversations that you get between characters. Like you get Sylvie confronting Mobius about not looking into his variant self.
Yes.
Very deep philosophical themes there about, you have a life on the timeline. Why are you afraid of exploring that? And Mobius is just trying to tell her, like, I'm satisfied with my life. And they have very different opinions and there's conflict there. And then you have Loki and Sylvie, and they have their conversation in the pie room, right? And Loki is talking about how back in the Kenneth Branagh Thor movie, he witnessed Thor's change after coming from Earth. And now that Loki has changed, that means a lot to him now. And, they're talking about cowardice and weakness, but also love and fear. Just big themes and big conversations happening between characters. And I love that. That's how you get good television, because movies, you only got 2 hours to get the viewer's attention. In series, you can have those conversations. You can have scenes breathe a little bit, right? And I love all those conversations. I agree. And then man, the villain side of things, Ravonna and Miss Minutes, what a pair those two make. They are terrifying.
Is amazing. It's crazy.
Renslayer's cool now because she's got that thing with Victor Timely going on, and she learned a lot about herself, and her character is growing. We know more about her. But man, Miss Minutes, watching the TVA employees, the traitors, right? They're all being held in this prison cell.
Yeah.
And she just loves watching these people die. She's just so enamored and happy with their horrific deaths. And that just was so disturbing, but so interesting. And the fact that they didn't show anything, but you got the sounds, and it's just really disturbing. I was shocked by that. And I love that shock factor that came with that just terrible scene. But honestly, so interesting. And you got Hunter X5, who's just letting it happen because he's terrified of, awesome stuff.
He also doesn't care. He also doesn't care all that much.
Well, he cares more about himself, right? He cares more about getting his acting life back on the timeline. He's like, yeah, I'll sacrifice you guys, whatever. But it still makes him super uncomfortable.
True.
And then Miss Minutes is just having a blast. Love that. Love evil, dastardly, unredeemable villains and all the timely stuff. Great, just great episode.
I do agree. I think this is one of the best episodes of just Marvel TV in general.
Yeah, it was awesome.
The first or second WandaVision is probably very high up there for me too.
Very high episodes. Yeah.
But
And honestly,
yeah,
there's probably a couple sneakers, throughout the other
it's
series that might
it
slide
really
up
is.
there.
It definitely was the best episode of the series so far.
Yeah.
It's so good. It's so good. I'm right there with you.
So 2 more episodes.
Renslayer getting purged as well is going to be interesting to see
That's
what
right.
happens.
Forgot about that.
Seeing what happens with X5.
X5 got pruned as well. I have because I think Ravana did it, right?
No, he pruned
Timely.
Renslayer.
X5 and Timely went to the hot chocolate room or the coffee room because he was all like, "How does that?"
That wasn't X5.
Oh, that wasn't X5. X5 pruned that
Renslayer
guy that was helping them all out.
Yes. Yes.
Well, yeah, he pruned Renslayer because Loki chanted him.
Yeah.
What's that guy's name? It was that random TVA guy that's been with them the whole time.
Yeah, he was another B, right?
Yeah, he's one of the good TVA agents.
Yeah.
He got pruned as well.
But he got
Me
pruned.
Neither. I have a theory. I don't know how, because at the end, right, the loom actually gets destroyed, which did not see that coming. I have a theory. All these people are getting pruned. Ravana especially makes me feel like we're going back to that void at the end of time, right? Because they've already been to see.
I love how you keep calling her Ravana.
Is it not Ravana? It's Ravona.
Renslayer. It's
Renslayer. Ravona. It's Ravana Renslayer.
No,
right?
No, it's not Ravana. It may be Ravona.
Is it Ravona?
It may be Ravona.
Renslayer. Okay, I'll start.
And Miss Minutes is dead too.
Miss Bennett's, yeah, and she's like freaking out. You'll never be him. Like, she's so creepy and weird.
That was wild. That was a
terrifying.
Wild moment.
She scares me. Miss Minute scares terrifying.
Me. This is
You'll never be him.
AI is a bad idea.
Bad. It's bad. We don't like it.
No.
Anyway, I think we're going back to that void because Renslayer got pruned, and that's where you send them, right? And I think they want to probably get Kid Loki back in there. So I don't know why we'd go back to the void, but
I really hope that doesn't happen. That would honestly diminish the where.
Yeah, maybe that's like a season. Maybe that's like a season 3 plot line they're setting up, like back to the void, because we only have 2 episodes left and not a lot of time. So, but anyways,
yeah, true.
Let's talk about Gen V.
Yeah, let's talk about Gen V. I'm really liking the show so far. I know you didn't like the In the Head of Kate episode. I thought that was a great episode. So here's the thing. I don't think anything about this show has been a filler so far. I really do think it's been very streamlined, very focused.
Yeah.
Man,
it moves.
Going into Kate's head made sense for what they needed to do. The end of this latest episode is wild.
Yeah.
Kate's gone crazy, and it's also this episode specifically sets up a lot of the pieces of why everybody has been saying in interviews, hey, this directly sets up season 4 of The Boys.
Oh, it definitely does.
It makes sense. And if
the main through line of The Boys, yes.
With that being the case, The Boys season 4 is going to be wild. Wild. Just looking at how the end of season 3 ended. Season 4 is about to be the war of World War Soups, essentially. It's just going to be the war against the soups with the through line of this virus.
The virus. Is season 4 of The Boys the last season of The Boys?
I don't think so. They've talked about
maybe one more season after it then?
They've talked about The Boys not going on perpetually.
Right. But there's going to be an ending.
They've also said that I have a feeling season 4, I have a feeling because they've said that season 4 is going to directly correlate with season 2 of Gen V. So it's going to set up season 2 of Gen V. So I have a feeling we're going to get a 5th season of The Boys, and maybe that they call it's going to be either season 5 or season 6. I think that's when we're going to get the end.
I'm hoping I'm hoping for 5 seasons. I'll tell you why.
I really do hope it's 5. Yeah, I'm kind of there with you.
Throughout the whole season of Gen V so far, we keep hearing little bits and pieces about how the world has stepped forward, namely Homelander, because he killed that guy right in broad daylight, and everybody cheered. And he's like, oh, wow, I can do this and I can get away with it. Or can he? Right? Because they're talking about a trial that's taking place. Is Homelander going to be tried for murdering a man in broad daylight? So season 4, and we're getting so close to Homelander just going off, right? Doing this scorched earth. You know, he's no longer afraid of that tape of the plane incident, which also ties into this episode in a really great way. He's not afraid of the tape. They can't blackmail him. He's super powerful. Nobody can take him down. And so we got to be getting close to the end here because Homelander's about to go off. So I could see season 4 kind of being Homelander doing what he wants. And then season 5 ends things with the war, right? The Homelander versus everybody war. Or the Supes versus normal people and their allies war, right? And then you get that final battle probably at the, hey, cut it out. Got my cats fighting on the, speaking of war. Did you hear that? They were like, chill out.
Yeah, I kind of,
you know what I mean?
We're on to something there. No, you're on to something. I kind of, though, here's the thing, is like I think it's gonna be, I think it's gonna be season 5. I do agree with that. I don't know if we're going to get I don't know. I think the series is moving, like, as much as season 3 set up a lot of Homelander stuff, I think we're moving past Homelander in a lot of things too. And specifically with Gen V.
Maybe, yeah.
Specifically
we
with
may
Gen
not even
V,
focus on the trial portion. It may just be like, let's move past that, you know. Honestly,
with everything with the virus that the dean of the school is making, coming also to find out that exactly what you just said, that the reason she is trying to build this virus and hates Supes is that her husband and daughter were on the plane that Homelander destroyed. So
I love that, by the way. That was great.
See, that's also one of those things where it's like, that's something that, like, that is a connection that we never ever needed. We never needed that connection, but because it's subtle enough, it works, and it just works well.
And we're not focusing on that character too much, right? Because she's dead. No. So that kind of wraps everything nicely. Now she's out of the way.
And like the fact that, like, dude, and that's the thing, is like, it was really starting to feel like a lot of a lot of things were tying up, and a lot of things have tied up really well.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, this episode, in the last 10 minutes of the show, opens up so many more things. I'm like, wait, what happens next? Because you have Kate slicing her neck open, so the dean's dead, and it's like, okay, yeah, that could start something, but it's also like, what could it start? Also, then finding out that the lady who's the vice president, the head popper, has the same powers.
Victoria Newman.
Yeah, Victoria Newman has the same powers as Monroe, which makes sense. And I don't know why I didn't connect those two dots earlier on, especially when we got the benefactor drop too. When the dean dropped the fact that, like, she has a benefactor, she's off the limits. I don't know why those two things never connected in my head. But like, now that makes sense. There's just a lot of questions going into this final episode that I don't know where we go.
Well, the final episode, I think a couple of these things are just going to be major plot points for The Boys season 4.
Well,
like, we're not going to see
the virus. We're not going to see the virus.
We're not going to see the virus. We're not going to see Newman because she's got that. That's going to be her starting point when we pick up with The Boys.
Yeah.
She's going to have that kind of as her trump card, right? She's going to whip out the virus just to keep everybody in check. And maybe that's how they deal with Homelander.
Which is also crazy because she's virus. A super.
Yeah, and she's a soup. That's what I love about The Boys, man. You got all these different angles, and all these different people have their different motivations and their different angles and their different ways of doing things.
Perfect example. The fact that the dean met with the English lady.
Yeah,
Butcher,
the senator
Butcher's,
or the CIA.
Butcher's,
Butcher. Yeah, she mentions Butcher,
and she mentions Butcher. He's like,
yeah,
I know someone who is as vengeful as you, and I was like, oh, she's talking about Butcher.
You know what would be cool in season 4? And I could really see this happening. For a while there, during their conversation, Mallory, right?
Mallory, yeah.
Mallory.
I couldn't remember her name.
For the Dean Shetty and Mallory were talking, and I thought for sure we were gonna get like a Butcher cameo or a Mother's Milk cameo, one of those two guys. I didn't think, Frenchie or Huey. I thought one of those guys would just pop out as like security for Mallory, right? Because she's high profile, she's very important to their movement. I could see that still could be the case. I think possibly in season 4, maybe early on, maybe in the first episode, you see Butcher and maybe Huey, Frenchie, one of those guys. I think Butcher will be there to witness that conversation, but he'll have like a sniper on Shetty. And it won't be a huge thing. It's just going to be a nice little touchback to the series because Mallory's very important to them, right? And we've seen before
she hasn't been around the Boys. She hasn't been around the Boys. She was only around the Boys in season 3, like a little bit. She wasn't there.
She was close to them though, because she was watching Ryan, the kid. She had Ryan in custody for a little bit, and they would visit her. Sure. And that's how they found out about all the stuff that happened in Vietnam with Soldier Boy, because Mallory was there and she told the boys.
True.
So they're close, and that was kind of Mallory putting herself out there in the open. Like, although they were having their private conversation, I don't think this will be important. I think it'll just be like a little conversation between Huey and somebody. But it'll just be revealed like Butcher was there, like with a sniper, just to kind of tie the series together. Like, oh, I remember this scene. Oh, different context. Butcher was there. Anyways, that was just a little side thought, but
not a bad idea.
Now we're gonna get Kate and Sam versus the other protagonists. That's gonna be cool. And the people locked up in the woods, they're going to be released. It's going to be chaos on the Godolphin University campus. You're going to get suit powers everywhere. You're going to see a bunch of people die probably, which leads me to a question. Who do you think's making it out of this show into The Boys? Because I think somebody will cross over.
Well, definitely Monroe. Like she's definitely
Marie.
She's gonna make it out.
Yeah, I agree.
I think the kid whose dad is the other magnetic
polarity.
Polarity. I think he's gonna make it out. And I think I don't know why I keep blanking on her /
Jordan.
The dude Jordan. I think Jordan's gonna make it out.
I think Jordan will make it out too.
I think Kate's dead. I think Kate will not make it through the end of this. I don't think I could totally see a path where Sam makes it out but becomes a villain.
Especially because he's got ties to she's the only character whose name I can't remember, the shrinking girl.
Oh yeah, I can't remember her. I can't remember
because she's not really associated with our main people. She kind of does her own thing, and she's kind of just there sometimes. I like her.
She's Marie's roommate.
I like her, and they do interesting stuff with her powers. and I think it's interesting how she ties down Sam, who's an absolute lunatic powerhouse wild card. I think the
He also
roommate
is
will
crazy.
die.
Like he's also crazy, like
Oh,
Black Noir.
he's nuts. Yeah, they got the same kind
Bonkers.
of crazy, right? They see puppets and cartoons and like crazy stuff.
Black Noir sees cartoons and he sees puppets, which
You know it's bad.
for a fact. That scene where he goes crazy on
Oh yeah, he's just
the security people
ripping
and it's
people.
all in puppet form was the
So good.
funniest thing. I knew
Yeah.
exactly what was happening. Like I wasn't like
Yeah.
it wasn't
It's
like,
no
oh,
secret.
I don't know what's happening. But
And
I
then
thought
you
it was
get that
so funny.
it
And then
was
you get the
wild,
scene of
man.
him walking out, and then you just see the carnage. And that was just
I'm
like,
pretty sure there was like a song that was playing during it too. It was like a
yeah.
Disney song or something. It was like crazy.
And then the line where
Uh,
he's like, I'm pretty sure I ripped the man in half. It's
yeah, he's
like,
like, I ripped somebody
yeah.
in half. I love that. No, I think I all the characters are interesting. I like all of them. But
They
I
did a
think
really good job of like making all of these characters feel interesting and not they
yeah,
do in Gen V what you want an X-Men film to do,
that's a
right?
great point.
To
I
give
think Gen
all
V
of
is a
the
great X-Men.
to give all of the characters enough plot and enough character development that you don't feel like one or another is like left out. It's like, oh,
Yeah,
they're just
they all have
filler,
something to
right?
do, right? They all
Yeah,
have a
exactly.
purpose that adds to the greater story,
Yeah.
which leads me to my predictions for the finale. I agree, Marie Moreau, too good not to keep. She's definitely going to cross over into the boys because I think
And
she'd fit right
especially
in there.
because, especially with Newman, like
And
you're
with
gonna need
Newman, she's
someone.
got a
You're gonna need
connection with
someone to
Newman.
counter Newman.
Yeah, especially that's a great point. Actually, I didn't think about that, but yeah, you're right. They have the same powers. That's not exactly how I thought Newman's powers worked. Like she has control over
I
people's
didn't
blood.
either.
There was a disconnect there where it's like this feels like a stretch, but I guess because she,
No,
I don't
because
know, maybe she boils their blood.
it's just
I thought it
literally
was just yeah.
she can make the blood move so fast, and the brain is literally what, like 80% your blood. Like that's the whole point. Is like,
It's blood.
so like if you
Yeah,
make it move fast enough,
I just
head
kind of
popper.
thought it was something. You know how Professor Xavier in Logan, he has those aneurysms and he makes everybody freeze.
Yeah,
I
mean,
thought it
but at the
was.
same
I thought
time,
Newman's powers. It's not. She's
at the
not
same time,
telepathic.
Marie killed
But
her
I
parents
just.
that way. She
Yeah,
literally projectiled her own period.
yeah, it was crazy. But the way that I always thought Newman's powers worked was she just like makes people's heads explode. Like she puts a
Yeah.
bubble in there and just bam. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But now they've kind of retconned that to, oh, she also controls blood. This is just how she uses it, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, I like that point you said about Marie being a counter to Newman. I think that'll come in handy, which is why I think she's definitely making out. My prediction for the black kid and his father with Polarity. Polarity had that crazy seizure, right? And he's going to be kind of an interesting wild card too. I think he'll be a little bit better, but I think he'll see all the crazy stuff going on campus, and I think he'll try to stop it. And I think you'll have the son and the father kind of duel it out with their magnetic powers because they're like equal kind of there. So I can see either the kid, like them killing each other and just canceling that out. So I don't know if that guy's going to make it. I forget his name. I think Jordan will make it because they're very interesting. That's a cool character. Marie definitely makes it out.
That's also a character. That's also a character where it's fascinating. It's fascinating to me with Jordan.
Yeah,
that is a character that if you wanted to, in the day and age that we live, you could shove so much down people's throat in that story, like forcibly force something, you know.
Oh yeah,
like
and
with
they
the
use
political
that story
climate,
for sure.
With the political climate that we live in today, like that is a character that you could like just Trojan horse with whatever agenda you want.
Putting it. And I think they do a little bit of that.
they did it with the parents, but they did it with the parents enough that it was like, okay, this makes sense to me. Like I understood, like, hey, if this was actually happening, like I could totally see this being the parents' reaction. But they don't do it in a way that like she's like Jordan's always like forcing other people to realize her or he or whatever the hell they want. Like they do it in a way that like she's just Jordan's being Jordan and like that's Jordan. It's the parents that like had a problem with it, like honestly.
Right. They definitely use that character to further some of those narratives and those agendas, right? I mean, for sure. That's why this character exists, right? To kind of speak to that. This is by all means a character that I should have no love for, right? Because I don't agree with that. I'll tell you why I like this character, Jordan, though, is because it's part of their power set. To physically use their powers. They switch between man and woman. And that's interesting. That's just a very interesting power. And of course, you're going to have sort of like this identity crisis. You utilize the genders for different purposes, right? Because there's a conversation with her friends where she's like, man, when you're trying to make a point, stop turning into a dude, right? I thought that was interesting. And so, by all means, I shouldn't like this character or what they kind of represent, and I don't. But it's interesting because the powers make it and justify the fact that you have both genders in this one person.
And to that point,
cool. I think it's interesting.
You have less time where you're feeling like you're being force-fed something. Right.
And they're great. Because you're not being forced. It's a natural thing because this is what the character's situation is.
It's just like, hey, this is the character. Like that's what this is their thing. Yeah. I agree with that.
And I think I didn't like the character at first just because they were mean. Like they're rude and like they're so self-indulgent.
Yeah, they were kind of a dick.
That's her character arc, is like she's learning to care about other people and not put herself as number one all the time. And I think that's interesting. So I like that character, Jordan. I think they'll stick around for sure. Man, the casting, they nailed the casting on those two as well. Like when they flip back and forth, I'm like, man, that's so good. They look the same.
You buy it. Yeah,
I buy it. They might as well be siblings. I don't know where they got those two people, but wow. So Jordan's making it out. I don't know about Kate. I think at this point she's too much of a threat to live on. And I think they want to do more interesting stuff with Sam later on down the line. And I think Kate's kind of served her purpose. She's chosen her side. What more can we do with her? And she's rallying troops, right? I think in the last episode, either Marie or Jordan, somebody will kill her. And then that's going to be a plot point moving forward, right? So, but, I could be wrong. All of this could go sideways. We could have like Marie dying and like that be a reason why people move on.
They've done a really good job. They've done a really good job with this most recent episode of us moving into the finale. No cards are shown. The cards
I have no idea what's going to happen.
And like
I'm excited. I love that.
Especially because like the certain plot points that we knew that we saw coming to a head have essentially wrapped up in that episode. Like now and all of a sudden, and like they threw on like wild cards right on top of the pile in that episode, being like, oh hey, haha, now you actually have to think, like, look at this. So
listen, like Shetty's dead, the scientist is dead, Newman has the virus, she ain't coming back, like that's out of play. So now it's just our central characters feuding and warring with each other and those relationships coming to a head, and that's enough for a great finale. And then you have all the boys set up. This is great. We got 2 incredible seasons of television right now with Loki and Gen V, and like we have no idea where they're going from here, and that's awesome. And I love that, and I'm very invested in both of these shows, so it's gonna be a big week.
And guys, with that, we're gonna wrap this up. It has been a fun hour of just kind of delving into this again, like because we had the last couple of weeks off, we had to cram a lot into this episode. But with that, we will bid you guys adieu, and we will see you guys next week. And until then, have a great rest of your guys' week, and we'll see you later.
Take care, guys.
Oh, where's the music? I didn't hit the
Stick around while we find.
Bye.